Alright, we're back with the second devlog. This is what we'll be looking at by the end, but let's see how we got there from where we left off. When we last left off, I just finished the new placement mechanics. The first thing I wanted to solidify is the progression. I made some data tables, which include packs to open containing pieces of each type of building. The packs can spawn everything that shop type would need. For example, this ramen restaurant can spawn a house, a pipe, a window, a wire, an aircon, an air vent, a sign, a water tank, and the shop front. Of course, that's way too much. So I'm changing it so each pack only has 2 options. So a restaurant can now give you the shop front and a few air vents. To get the other items, you have to open other packs. There's also a chance to spawn items from packs you've already opened using a loot table. I'm sure you've heard of loot tables before, but not sure exactly how to make them. This is how I make my loot tables. I save my items to a map, which is 2 linked variables, in this case a name and a number representing the chance of it appearing. We add the chances together, get a random number between 0 and that total sum. Then we loop through that table until we hit an item with a number that's the same or less, and that chosen item will be our random spawn. Next, let's work on some UI feedback. When you gain points, I used alert to make the points bar increase smoothly. I created a second bar that shows how much you're going to earn while placing. I don't know why, but it took me nearly all day to figure out how to handle going over your goal. Then I made some button animations. Here's a Gamedev tip. Make sure you disable buttons while they're animating, or players will fire your code multiple times. Here's another tip. Make your animations speed up after the first time you see them, especially if you're gonna see them a lot in one game. If you're wondering how I came up with the look and feel of the UI, I borrowed them from a game called Islanders. At first, I had a bit of an existential crisis, realizing I was making the exact same game. But then I decided to just go with it, as I know the game and the UI will evolve over the course of development. And it doesn't hurt to have that kind of a foundation. Let's move on to making a logo. I like Kainga's logo a lot, but you can't tell anything about the game from the logo alone. So this time I'd like to add visual elements that represent the game on the text itself. So I took the basic text and added some images of buildings, clotheslines, wires, and other flavorful elements to try to get the feeling of what the game will be from just a look at the logo. I'm not sure if it'll be too distracting yet, but I think it's good enough for now. Let's move on to visuals. I zoomed out the camera and moved it downwards to make it feel less like a strategy game and more like a diorama. Remodeled the floor, the surrounding area, redid some of the models, and added roofs. I then added fog, created an outline and cell shading post processes based on Evan Bull's Unreal Engine 5 tutorials. I then took a look at it and backtracked most of it because I wasn't able to accomplish what I needed. Cell shading doesn't allow for transparency on windows, smoke, or fog, so I had to get rid of it. It's pretty hard to pick a visual style, but I think it does look better without them. Sometimes it's worth the time wasted going off on a tangent, so you can make the educated decision knowing what both sides look like. I then tried to mess with the camera a little bit, fixing the focus point and was hoping to create a depth of field, which is used to make a scene look like it's a miniature.
Let's briefly look at some key camera concepts before we proceed. The diagram on screen represents how a camera works in the real world.
Actually, I think the camera's fine as it is. Let's move on to something else. Color. I messed around with a few color systems, but ended up with this. Basically, every house has a plain wall color. Other elements like windows use up to 2 different frame colors and a soft color. I then overlaid some grays and browns from miscellaneous items, and then possibly an alternative door color. Each house has a similar color pattern that follows the same rules, so I can quickly create a variety of color combinations to be chosen by each house. I chose color combinations using examples from real life and also sampling from Adobe's free color palette generator. It's a great color adjustment system in Unreal which uses post processes. Basically, you take a screenshot of the game, add this little bar somewhere, and then you change the colors however you want. You export just a little bar back into the engine, mark it as a color lookup table, and plug it into your post process's color grading, and it applies all your adjustments into the game. You can really take this as far as you want. So with my brother's help, we found a look for that screenshot that fits the game's goals. Strong colors, an inviting atmosphere, and warm neon hue. And there we go. This is a really great way to visually pull everything together.
That rug really tied the room together, did it not?
Finally, I wanted to address something that's been bothering me, the staticness of the scene. With no characters or vehicles, I still want these simple environments to feel alive. Akira Kurosawa captures great background movement with otherwise static scenes in his films. So I'm going to try to do my best to take more inspiration. To get that feeling across, I'm creating minor movement with as many objects as I can. This is something I'll work on to expand in the future with weather and environmental effects. But that's good enough for now. It's been 2 weeks since the last devlog, so we're 6 weeks along so far.
Rest thy maid.
I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.